Alright. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and very good morning to Miss Munawarah and my fellow friend. My name is Ricky Alfredo Augusto. So now I will be explain about one of the time management tools, which is Pareto Principle. Alright. 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 Before I explain the Pareto Principle in more detail, what is meant by the Pareto Principle? Okay. As you can see, the Pareto principle is well-known theory that is widely used in everyday human life. The Pareto principle is named after Vilfredo Pareto, an Italian economist who founded it in 1895. Before defining the 80-20 rule, he studied how efforts and input yielded certain results. Finally, he also realized that almost every 80% of the wealth in Italian economy activity at that time was controlled by at least 20% of the population. Thus, the Pareto principle is a principle that states that 80% of the actual result is produced by 20% input or impulse. All right, so we move on to the next part, which is the history of the rise of the Pareto principle. All right, so the Pareto principle, also known as the 80-20 principle, was founded by the Vilfredo Pareto in 1906. Vilfredo was an Italian sociologist, philosopher, and economist. He has made many contributions to the Italian national economy, especially in the study of distributive income and uh, in the analysis of selected uh, individuals. In addition, turning to the Pareto principle, a principle born of this mathematical formula was meant to describe the unequal distribution of wealth in the Italian state at the time. Uh, Vilfredo Pareto has made some observation about real estate in Italy and found that 80% of the land in the country is owned by 20% of the population there. This observation is supported by the standard of living of Italian society itself. Uh, Only high-income people or those with a strong work ethic can own land, and due to limited manpower, only 80% of the land has been successfully explored. At the same time, Pareto also found the same principle repeat when he planted peas in pots in his backyard. He found that only 80% of the peas survived. Supposedly, this may be due to lack of fertilizer in the bean tree nursery, pest attack, or influenced by weather factors. All right, so we move on to the next part, which is example of the Pareto principle in our life. All right, as you can see from an example I provide here, uh, firstly, 20% of the road accidents occur as a result of the 80% of the drivers being negligent. Secondly, 20% of road accidents happen as a result of the 80% of the drivers being drunk. And thirdly, 20% of road accidents occur as a result of 80% of non-existent or poorly maintained road condition. So in general, we know that there are no things in life that can be distributed equally. We also know that the changes for us to be in 15% to 15% situation are difficult. We may not want to do things that take 50% of our effort just to get 50% satisfaction. Vice versa. Even though we often dream of something magical, we will not get 100% success without making any effort. All right, so we move on to the next part, which is uh, the advantage of the Pareto principle. Okay, so There is a practical reason for applying the Pareto principle. Simply, it can give someone a window into who to reward or what to fix. For example, if 20% of the design flaws in a car are leading to 80% of the crashes, someone can identify and fix those flaws. Similarly, if 20% of their customers are driving 80% of their sales, uh, they may want to focus on those customers and reward them for their loyalty. Yeah, in this sense, the Pareto principle becomes a guide for how to allocate resources efficiently. All right, so we move on to the next part, which is this advantage of the Pareto principle. All right. While the 80-20 split is true for Pareto observation, that doesn't necessarily mean that it is always true. For instance, 30% of the workforce or 30 out of 100 workers may only complete 60% of the output. The remaining workers may not be as productive or or may just be slacking off on the job. This further reiterates that the Pareto principle is merely an observation and not necessarily a law. Alright, so we move on to the last part, which is conclusion. Alright, in conclusion, applying the Pareto principle in one's daily life is the best strategy. However, the Pareto principle reminds us again how important 20% is in any situation to which it may contribute to a large percentage. Although it is only as an observation, but it can also be applied in improving the process that exists around us. As an example, we can take that if the company can save time, energy, mind when finding a 20% of course that the company will maximize it's easy is to achieve 80% success. In this way, the Pareto principle can invite people to hone their intuition from 20% of the effort. Moreover, this principle cannot only be implemented in business, but can also be applied in career development, life journey. So in this way, human beings can live more efficiently, still have quality, still have quality and benefit the people around them. All right, so that's all from me. I hope Miss Munawar and my fellow friend can understand what I'm present just now. Thank you so much and wabillahi taufiq wa hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi